Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Yeah,
Cool.
we'll be using the basic principles of Ayurveda as our guide.
Great source.
I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this one.
For sure. 5,000 years old, this system
Wow.
originated in India. All about longevity.
Living a long and healthy life.
Exactly.
Mm.
You know what I think is super interesting about Ayurveda? It's not just some old philosophy.
Whoa, what is it then?
It's a living tradition passed down from generations of yogis and sages.
So they spent their lives observing the human body and how it connects with nature.
You got it. And there's some really fascinating details in here. Like, did you know that Ayurveda says there are 13 natural urges we should never suppress?
13. What, like going to the bathroom?
Well, yeah, that's one.
Uh-huh.
But also things like sneezing, yawning, even passing gas.
Really? I've never heard that before.
It sounds a little strange.
Yeah, it does.
But these urges can tell us a lot about our well-being.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm definitely curious to learn more about that. But first, maybe we could start with the basics.
Absolutely. Ayurveda sees everything in the universe, including the human body, as being made up of 5 basic elements: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Along with these 5 elements, there are also 4 forces.
4 forces, okay.
These are the soul, the mind, time cycles, and our senses.
So like a cosmic recipe for everything.
You could say that. And what's really cool about this is that it highlights the interconnectedness of everything, how our internal world reflects the external world and vice versa.
So if we understand these elements, we can understand ourselves better.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. So how do these elements actually affect our health, like on an individual level?
That's where the doshas come in.
Yeah.
The 3 doshas.
Mhm.
Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
Okay, the doshas.
These are unique combinations of the 5 elements we just talked about. They influence everything from our physical characteristics to our mental and emotional tendencies.
So it's like everyone has a personalized blueprint for well-being.
That's a great way to put it.
I like that. Okay, tell me more about these doshas.
All right, let's start with Vata. Vata is made up of ether and air. It governs all movement in the body, things like breathing, circulation, nerve impulses, even our thoughts.
So Vata is kind of like the energy that keeps us going.
Exactly. People with a dominant Vata dosha are usually quick-witted, creative, and energetic. They love change, new experiences, but they can also be prone to things like anxiety, dryness, and feeling cold if their Vata is out of balance.
So like the wind, always moving, always changing.
That's a great analogy.
What about Pitta?
Pitta is all about transformation, composed of fire and water, governs things like metabolism, digestion, and body temperature.
Okay.
Pitta types tend to be focused, determined, passionate, natural leaders, but maybe prone to anger or inflammation if their Pitta is out of balance.
They're like the fire.
Yes.
The fire that drives us but needs to be controlled.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got airy Vata, fiery Pitta. What about Kapha?
Kapha is the grounding force, the earth and water element. It provides structure, stability, lubrication.
The glue that holds it all together.
Exactly. People with a dominant Kapha dosha are typically calm, grounded, and nurturing. They've got great stamina, slow to anger. But they can also struggle with things like sluggishness or weight gain if their Kapha is out of balance.
So each dosha has its own unique personality. Do we all just have one dosha, or can we have a mix?
That's a great question. Ayurveda actually says there are 7 different types.
7.
Yeah. You could be predominantly Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. But you can also have a combination of 2, like Vata Pitta or Pitta Kapha.
Oh, interesting.
And then there's a rare type where all 3 are balanced. That's called Tridosha.
Wow, so how do we know which dosha is most dominant for us?
There are a few different ways. Ayurveda uses things like pulse diagnosis, observation of physical characteristics, and a good old-fashioned health history.
Like a detective for your dosha.
Exactly. And there are also questionnaires you can use to get started, like the one in your source material.
Okay, so let's say I figure out my dosha. How does that actually help me make healthier choices?
That's where the real magic of Ayurveda comes in. It helps you personalize your approach to well-being.
Give me an example.
Sure. If you're predominantly Vata, you might benefit from a grounding routine. Things like warm, cooked meals, calming practices like meditation. But someone who's more Pitta might need to focus on things like cooling foods, stress management techniques.
Ah, so it's like a roadmap to well-being tailored to your unique constitution.
That's a great way to put it.
So it's not just about our dosha, right? Ayurveda also talks a lot about the digestive system.
You're absolutely right. In Ayurveda, digestion is considered absolutely key.
Key to what?
To everything. Ayurveda calls the digestive fire Agni. It's the transformative force that breaks down food, extracts nutrients, and provides energy for every cell in our body.
So if our Agni is weak, it's like our body's not getting the fuel it needs.
Exactly. And a weak Agni can lead to all sorts of issues: digestive discomfort, low energy, even brain fog.
Wow.
Ayurveda says that a weak Agni can lead to a buildup of something called ama.
What's that?
It's a toxic residue that comes from undigested food.
Sounds bad.
Yeah, it's something you want to avoid.
So how do we know if our Agni is weak?
There are some signs you can look out for. Things like a coated tongue, indigestion, low energy, and that feeling of heaviness after you eat.
Okay, and what can we do to strengthen our Agni?
Lots of things. Eating warm, cooked meals, favoring foods that are easy to digest, and using spices like ginger, cumin, and fennel.
Those all sound pretty delicious.
They are, and they're good for you. But also, mindful eating is really important.
What do you mean by mindful eating?
Slowing down when you eat, chewing your food thoroughly, and really focusing on the experience.
So not scrolling through your phone while you're eating.
Exactly.
Okay, no more multitasking meals for me. We talked about a weak Agni, but I think you mentioned there are different types of Agni, right?
You're right. Ayurveda actually describes 4 main types: Sama Ani, Vishama Ani, Tikshna Ani, and Manda Ani.
Okay, break it down for me. What does each one mean?
Sama Ani is balanced Ani. This is what we all want. Your digestion is smooth, efficient. You feel energized after meals.
That's great. What about Vishama Agni?
Vishama Ani is irregular and erratic. Imagine a fire that's constantly fluctuating. You might experience gas, bloating, constipation, even diarrhea.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun.
Not really. Then there's Tikshna Ani. That's like a super intense fire burning everything up. You might get heartburn, acid reflux, even ulcers. You're always hungry.
Wow. So Tikshna Agni is like an overactive fire. What about the last one?
Manda Ani. That's a slow, sluggish fire. You feel heavy and tired after meals. You might experience bloating, water retention.
Okay, so it's like our digestion is running on low power.
You got it.
Yeah.
And your dominant dosha can actually give you clues about your Agni type.
Really?
Yeah, like Vata types are more prone to be Shama Ani, Pitta types might lean towards Tikshna Ani, and Kapha types often have Manda Ani.
Fascinating. So we've talked about the elements, the doshas, and Agni. What else is there to know about how our bodies work according to Ayurveda?
Well, there are also the dhatus.
The dhatu.
Yeah, the 7 tissues that form our physical being. They get nourished in a specific order during digestion, and each one plays a crucial role in our overall health.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these dhatus. Like, what are they and how do they get nourished?
It all starts with rasa, which is the first tissue formed from digested food.
Rasa.
Think of it like the nutrient-rich fluid that circulates through our body.
Okay.
It nourishes all the other tissues. Rasa is essential for healthy blood, strong immunity, and healthy skin.
So it's like the foundation for everything else.
Exactly. And then from rasa, we get rakta,
Which is?
blood.
Oh,
Healthy rakta is vital for carrying oxygen and regulating body temperature.
This is so important.
And when our rakta is strong, we have a healthy complexion and that radiant glow everyone wants.
Okay, so we've got rasa and rakta. What are some of the other important dhatus?
Another big one is mamsa,
Mamsa.
muscle tissue.
Oh.
Strong mamsa gives us physical strength, stamina, helps us move with ease. And it's not just about big muscles. Healthy mamsa also helps us maintain a healthy weight and have a strong metabolism.
Okay, so each dhatu plays a specific role. What happens if one of them isn't getting nourished properly?
It can lead to all sorts of problems. Think of it like a chain reaction. If one link is weak, the whole system suffers.
So Ayurveda isn't just about taking in nourishment, right? It's also about getting rid of waste products.
Exactly. The waste products of digestion are called malas in Ayurveda. Efficient elimination of these malas is crucial for our health.
Like taking out the trash.
Exactly. We need to get rid of that waste so our bodies can function properly.
Okay, makes sense. So we've covered Agni, the dhatus, the malas. Anything else we need to understand about how our bodies work according to Ayurveda?
There's one more thing. Remember how we talked about rasa, how it carries nourishment throughout the body?
Yeah.
Well, how does rasa actually get around?
Good question.
That's where the Srotas come in. They're a network of channels that transport fluids, nutrients, and waste products throughout the body.
So like rivers and streams,
Exactly.
keeping everything flowing smoothly.
You got it.
What happens if these channels get blocked?
It can disrupt the flow of nourishment and waste removal. It's like a traffic jam in your body. Things start to back up, and that can lead to problems.
Okay, so how do we keep our srotas clear? Is this where those 13 natural urges come in?
You're on the right track. Ayurveda says we should listen to our body's natural urges and not suppress them.
Okay, like sneezing and yawning.
Yeah, those are two of them.
So why is it bad to hold those things in?
Well, each urge has a purpose. Like sneezing helps expel toxins from the respiratory system. Holding it in can trap those substances.
So we could end up with congestion.
Or other respiratory issues. And what about crying?
Sometimes I try to hold back tears.
But crying is a natural emotional release. It's how we process grief, sadness, even joy.
So it's not healthy to keep those emotions bottled up.
Exactly. Yeah. Holding back tears can actually create tension in the body.
Wow. I'm realizing that these urges aren't just random things our bodies do. They're actually important for maintaining balance.
Exactly. And this leads us to another important concept in Ayurveda, aligning ourselves with nature's rhythms.
You mean like those daily and seasonal routines we talked about earlier?
You got it. Dinacharya and Ritacharya.
Right. Okay. Tell us more about how those work and why they're so important.
Dinacharya is all about creating a daily routine that supports your dosha and promotes overall balance. Things like waking up and going to bed at the same time each day, eating meals at regular intervals, and taking time for self-care.
So creating structure and rhythm in our day.
Exactly. And then there's Ritacharya. This is about adapting our routines to the changing seasons.
Because our body's needs change as the weather changes.
Precisely. In the colder months, we need to stay warm, eat nourishing foods, and get enough rest. In the warmer months, we might focus on staying cool, eating lighter foods, and getting more exercise.
So we're staying in tune with nature's cycles.
That's the idea.
But how do we actually put these routines into practice? Modern life can be so hectic.
That's a great question, and I think it's the perfect place to pick up in our next segment. We'll talk about practical tips for incorporating Ayurveda into your life, even if you're busy.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we were talking about Agni, the digestive fire.
Right, Agni. Super important in Ayurveda. It's like this transformative force.
Yeah.
It breaks down food, extracts nutrients, and provides energy for every cell in your body.
So it's not just about digesting food, it's about tuning it into fuel for the body.
Exactly. When our Agni is balanced, we feel good. Our minds are clear. We absorb all the good stuff from our food.
What happens if it's not balanced, though?
That's when problems start. You might notice indigestion, low energy, brain fog, maybe even skin problems.
Oh, wow.
And Ayurveda says that a weak Agni can lead to
Right, we talked about that a little bit, that toxic residue from undigested food.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some signs of ama buildup?
You might see a coated tongue, indigestion, low energy, irregular bathroom habits, that feeling of heaviness after meals.
Like you ate way too much.
Yeah, sort of. And to address ama, we need to focus on our Agni.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Lots of ways. One thing is eating warm, cooked meals.
So not too many cold salads.
Right. And favoring foods that are easy to digest, like incorporating spices that help digestion. Ginger, cumin, fennel, things like that.
Oh, the spices are so good. They make food taste great.
And they support your gut.
Bonus.
Exactly. And another big thing is mindful eating.
Mindful eating.
Really paying attention to the experience of eating. Slowing down, chewing your food thoroughly, avoiding distractions.
So no more eating lunch at your desk while answering emails.
Ideally not. And it's also about tuning into your hunger cues. Eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full.
Makes sense. I think a lot of us have gotten out of touch with our natural hunger signals.
I think you're right. Now, remember how we talked about different types of Agni?
Yeah, Sama Agni, Vishama Agni, Tikshna Agni, and Manda Agni.
Those are the four main types, yeah.
Can you remind me what they all mean?
Sure. Sama Agni is balanced Agni. That's the goal. Smooth digestion, feeling energized after meals, regular elimination.
The gold standard.
Exactly. Then you got Vishama Agni. That one's irregular, unpredictable, like a flickering flame.
So you might get gas, bloating, constipation.
All of that. And your appetite might be all over the place.
What about Tikshna Agni?
That's the intense one. It's like a fire that's burning too hot. You might get heartburn, acid reflux. You might feel hungry all the time.
So it's an overactive Agni.
Right. And then there's Manda Agni. That one's slow and sluggish. You might feel heavy and tired after eating.
So like your digestive fire needs a little boost.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much Ayurveda has to say about digestion. It's so specific.
It is. And your dosha can give you some insight into your Agni type, too.
Really?
Well, Vata types tend towards Vishama Agni. Pittas might be more prone to Tikshna Agni. And Kaphas often have Manda Agni.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about the doshas, Agni. What about the nutrients we're taking in? How does Ayurveda explain how our bodies use them?
That's where the datas come in.
The 7 tissues we talked about earlier.
Those are the ones.
Okay, remind me how they work.
Well, they get nourished in a specific order during digestion, and they're all super important for our health. It starts with rasa.
Right, rasa, the first tissue.
It's formed from the food we digest. Think of it like this nutrient-rich fluid that circulates in the body, nourishing everything else.
Okay.
Healthy rasa means healthy blood, strong immunity, glowing skin.
So it's like the foundation for everything else.
Exactly. And then from rasa, we get rakta.
Oh, blood.
Yep. That's essential for carrying oxygen, regulating temperature, nourishing all our cells.
Keeping us alive.
You got it. And when rakta is healthy, we have a nice complexion, that healthy glow.
I'm seeing a theme here. Healthy rasa leads to healthy rakta, which leads to healthy everything else.
You're getting it. Now, what other datas are important?
Well, we haven't talked about muscles yet.
Good one. That's mamsa. You know, strong mamsa gives us strength, stamina, helps us move easily.
In a healthy metabolism, right?
Exactly. It's not just about big muscles. It's about overall health.
So what happens if one of these datas isn't getting nourished properly?
It can throw things off.
Yeah.
Imagine a chain reaction where one link is weak. The whole system suffers.
Ah, okay. So we need to make sure all 7 dados are getting what they need. But it's not just about taking things in, right? We need to get rid of waste, too.
Right on. Remember the malas,
Mhm.
the waste products of digestion.
Yeah, like taking out the trash.
Exactly. And in Ayurveda, getting rid of those malas is just as important as nourishing the datas.
Okay, that makes sense. We've got the dadas, the malas. Anything else we need to know about how our bodies work?
Well, how does all that good stuff from our food, the rasa, actually move around in the body? Remember those channels we talked about, the srotas?
The ones that are like rivers and streams, right?
Those are the ones.
They're like our internal transportation system.
That's a great way to put it. They carry fluids, nutrients, waste products, everything that needs to move around in the body.
So what happens when these srotas get blocked?
It's like a traffic jam. Things get backed up, and that can cause all sorts of problems. It can disrupt the flow of nourishment and waste removal.
Not good. So how do we keep those channels clear?
Well, remember those 13 natural urges we talked about? Things like sneezing, yawning, going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Ayurveda says we should listen to those urges and not suppress them.
So sneezing is actually a good thing.
It is. It helps expel toxins and irritants from your respiratory system.
Oh, okay. And what about crying?
Crying is a natural emotional release. It's how we process feelings.
So it's okay to let those tears flow.
Exactly.
What is
Holding those feelings in can actually create tension in the body.
I'm starting to see how everything is connected in Ayurveda.
That's the beauty of it. And, you know, all of this brings us to another important concept, aligning ourselves with nature's rhythms.
You mean those daily and seasonal routines, dinacharya and ritacharya?
Yep, those are the ones.
Okay, so remind us why those are so important.
Well, dinacharya is about establishing a regular daily routine that supports your dosha. Waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, eating at regular intervals, taking time for yourself.
Creating structure and consistency.
Exactly. And ritacharya is all about adapting those routines to the changing seasons.
So how does that work? Like, what should we be doing differently in the winter versus the summer?
Well, in the winter, when it's cold and dry, it's important to stay warm, eat nourishing foods, and get lots of rest.
Makes sense. And in the summer?
In the summer, it's all about staying cool, eating lighter foods, and getting more exercise.
Ah, okay. So we're adjusting our habits to match the energy of the season.
Yeah.
This all sounds great, but it also sounds like a lot to manage. How can we fit these routines into our busy modern lives?
That's a great question, and it's something we can explore more in our next segment. We'll talk about some practical tips for bringing Ayurveda into your life, even if you don't have a lot of time.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been uncovering all these secrets of Ayurveda.
It's a really fascinating system.
Yeah. Elements, doshas, agni, datas, srotas.
Even those 13 urges we shouldn't be suppressing.
Right. It's a lot, but I'm feeling inspired.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I actually want to use this stuff.
You know, that's one of the coolest things about Ayurveda. It helps you take control.
Oh, how so?
It's not about rules. It's about understanding yourself and making good choices.
Okay, but where do we even start? We've covered so much.
Well, a good first step is figuring out your dosha. Remember that questionnaire in our source?
The one about body type, digestion, all that.
That's the one. It's a great tool for figuring out if you're Vata, Pitta, or Kapha.
And once you know your dosha,
Then you can start making choices that work for you.
like what kinds of choices? Can you give me some examples?
Sure, so you're Vata. Vata tends towards dryness, lightness, coldness. So grounding, warming practices would be good.
Like,
Like cozying up with a warm blanket, eating warm foods, soups, stews, things like that. And routine is super helpful for Vata. Going to bed at the same time each night, waking up at the same time.
creating a sense of stability.
Exactly.
What about things Vata should avoid?
Too much caffeine's not usually great. And raw foods, late nights too.
Makes sense.
What about Pitta? Let's say someone figures out they're mainly Pitta.
They're the fiery type, right?
That's the one. So for Pitta, it's all about cooling and calming.
Okay, so what would that look like?
Cooling foods like cucumbers, mint, calming activities, maybe some yoga or meditation, avoiding too much heat or spicy foods.
Sounds like a pretty chill lifestyle.
It's about balance. Each dosha has its own tendencies, and you want to balance them out.
Okay, so we've got Vata and Pitta. What about Kapha?
Kapha is all about grounding and stability, right?
Right.
So they often do well with practices that are a little more stimulating.
Like what?
More movement and exercise.
Mm.
Warming spices, things like ginger, black pepper. Lighter foods, not too heavy.
So Kapha needs to be invigorated.
Exactly. First, these are just basic examples. There's so much more to learn about Ayurveda and how to tailor it to your own needs.
I can imagine. So any advice for people who are just getting started with Ayurveda?
Well, remember those daily and seasonal routines we talked about? Dinacharya and Ritacharya?
Those are pretty foundational, right?
Totally. Start your day with a warm glass of water, scrape your tongue, try dry brushing,
Good tips.
and move your body.
Yeah.
Yoga, walking, even just stretching.
And when the seasons change, change with them. Eat warm, heavier foods in the winter, lighter foods in the summer.
You got it. And don't forget about mindfulness.
Oh, yeah, good.
Take time to appreciate your food, appreciate beauty, be grateful.
I'm really glad we did this deep dive.
Me too.
Ayurveda is so cool. I think our listeners will love it.
I hope so. It's really empowering. It shows you how to take charge of your own health.
Okay, before we go, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Think about how Ayurveda can work for you, how it can help you live a healthier, happier life.
That's a great question to ponder.
Ayurveda is a journey. It's all about learning and figuring out what works best for you.
We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully we've inspired people to learn more.
Keep exploring, keep learning. Ayurveda is a whole world waiting to be discovered.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic.